today. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for turning into our presentation today. My name is Patrick Gardner with Guarantee Mortgage, and I'm your 2021 SFAR Chair for the Education and Events Committee. On behalf of the committee and the SFAR Diversity Committee, I would like to welcome you to our panel discussion on the At Home with Diversity NAR certification. Before we get started, I would like to briefly remind everyone of our SFAR webinar practices. While you view this, all audience viewers are on mute throughout the presentation. Please try to refrain from using the chat feature to carry on side conversations during the presentation, as it can distract from the presenters. If you have questions during the presentation, they can be asked at any time by typing in the Q&A portal. We will try and get to all your posted questions in the Q&A period at the end of the session. As a reminder, our presentation will be recorded and made available through the SFAR social YouTube channel. There are a variety of Zoom webinars posted in that library that have been put on over the past few years, and we encourage you to check them out. I also want to take a moment to welcome any other realtors who are viewing this presentation from outside the SFAR Association. I think we may have some realtors from the state of Washington, the Northern California Tri-Valley area, Contra Costa Association of Realtors, Bridge Association of Realtors, and Marin Association of Realtors, as we extended an open invitation to all to show up today for this training and certification, or sorry, for this training and to follow up with the certification. Our program today was put together as a kickoff and introduction to the At Home with Diversity certification. We'll be sharing the details of an upcoming At Home with Diversity training provided by two of our panelists today later on in the presentation. However, for this panel, our goal is to just explore the rich content of the certification and to hear from our panelists on how it has enriched their lives and business practices in real estate. Joining us today are four realtors, trainers, and instructors. Michael Lee is a broker associate with RE/MAX in the Tri-Valley area.
Thanks, Patrick.
Margot Wheeler, managing broker, John L. Scott Real Estate in Tacoma, Washington.
Thank you.
Fanny Chu, SFAR's own resource for real estate internationally, locally, and in the Chinese community.
Hi, everyone.
And Mark Kadabayashi, managing broker of Windermere Real Estate in Puyallup, Washington.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you guys all for joining us today. Our panel today is as decorated and as accomplished as any in the industry, and most have an alphabet of designations and certifications to go along with their title as realtor. I'm going to try to keep their bios as brief as I can, but with so many accolades, it is hard not to highlight a few. First, Michael Soon Lee, PhD in CRS, has been a top-selling real estate broker for over 40 years by welcoming clients from every walk of life into his practice. He is also the author of 9 books on diversity, including Cross-Cultural Selling for Dummies and Black Belt Negotiating. In addition, Dr. Lee has spoken over 1,000 times to agents around the world about how to increase their sales to multicultural clients, including at 14 NAR conventions, to most of the major real estate franchises, and to 6 National Association of Home Builders conventions. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Patrick. Glad to be here.
Margot Wheeler. Margot has proudly worn the Realtor R and been a Women's Council member for more than 27 years. She's a practicing broker in Tacoma, Washington at John L. Scott's Tacoma University place of office. She is passionate about the industry, leadership, and mentoring. Margot has served on the Tacoma Pierce County Association and as Tacoma Women's Council President, Washington State Women's Council and Washington State Association of Realtors President, National President, Women's Council Realtors, NAR Realtor Director, NAR Region 12 Fundraising Trustee, and Margot currently serves on the Board of Directors for NAR. Born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Margot Wheeler is honored to also have served in the U.S. Army, retiring at the rank of First Sergeant. She is a mom, a proud grandmother, mentor, and real estate instructor, and fair housing advocate. Welcome, Margot.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Fanny Chu, SFAR's own, born in Hong Kong, attended college in Minnesota and New Orleans, lived in New York and Chicago, and now has 35 plus years as a realtor in the San Francisco Bay Area and as a NAR designated instructor. Fanny is known leader in real estate industry and in the Chinese community and is bilingual in Chinese and English. Fanny reads and writes Chinese and is fluent in 3 major Chinese dialects: Cantonese, Mandarin, and Shanghainese. She is the Chinese media consultant for CREA, the Chinese Association of Realtors of America, a speaker, trainer, and Chinese media host and consultant. Volunteerism is a major part of Fanny's life. She's an active Lion with the SF Chinatown Lions Club. And in 2019, Fanny was able to get the highest level of instructor for Lions, and she is committed to her mission to share her skills and experience in teaching and mentorship. Welcome, Fanny. Mark Kadabayashi, managing broker, realtor for 20 years in Washington and involved in many aspects of real estate, including association leadership, local jurisdiction, global instructor, and presenter. His real estate focus is residential, new construction, foreclosure, and global investment. NAR National and Global Instructor, 2021 National Global Coordinator for Asia and the Pacific, Homes First Thurston County Advisor Committee, ARIA, and a list of others. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
As a mortgage guy, I'm always looking at numbers. And as I was putting this presentation together, I did the math, and our panelists have nearly 125 years of real estate wisdom and experience to share with us. As you listen to them speak, I believe you will see it come through in the passion and heart they have for this work. With that said, I'm going to go grab some water. I'm a little parched from reading those intros, and I'm going to go ahead and turn over the panel, starting with Michael. Each panelist is going to take a couple minutes to share a bit of their story with you and why the At Home with Diversity certification is personal to them and their real estate journey.
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome.
It's my honor to be here, and thank you everyone for being interested in At Home with Diversity. I've been teaching At Home with Diversity for over 20 years now, and I'm also the author of the book, as Patrick mentioned, called Cross-Cultural Selling for Dummies. And while I've been in the real estate profession now for over 45 years, I'm still very active. For instance, last month, I sold over $6 million in real estate. And if I didn't have Indian, Brazilian, and Chinese clients, I would lose probably about 90% of my business. What At Home with Diversity does is to help you build trusting relationships with people whose culture may be different from your own. I've discovered in the last that in the first 40 or 50 seconds, most untrained real estate agents will unintentionally insult a multicultural client at least 3 times. We'll talk about how we do that unintentionally in At Home with Diversity, but no matter what culture you come from, if you're continuously insulting your clients, they're not going to work with you. At Home with Diversity trains you how to be sensitive to people's culture. For example, I've got Chinese clients who believe in feng shui. I've got Indian clients who believe in Vastu Shastra, which is very similar. So the direction of the home can be a big issue for these particular clients. So what I've learned from At Home with Diversity is that if it's important to the client, it should be important to me. So that is just a snapshot of what you're going to learn from At Home with Diversity. Now here's Margot Wheeler, the managing broker for John L. Scott Real Estate in Tacoma, Washington. Margot?
Thank you, Michael. And you know, I have to say that I've been teaching the At Home with Diversity course since about 1999. And as Patrick mentioned earlier, I spent 20 years in the Army, in the military, and retired. So I was stationed in Japan, I was stationed in Korea, I was stationed in Germany, and all over the United States. which meant that I worked with a diverse group of individuals, my military family, as well as their family members. But I started out, when I was born, I was raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Very diverse city, a little bit of every culture is there, ethnicity. And so I like to say I was born into diversity. So that was just who I am. This has a definitely, when I think about the course, I think about the fact that it not only affects me professionally as I am working with diverse clientele, but also personally, because at home with diversity helps you to be more sensitive to your clients, but not only your clients. It was mentioned that I'm a grandmother. So the children that my grandchildren might meet or be friends with, as well as my family, the individuals who are in my place of worship who may not look like me. So when you think about at home with diversity, you're thinking about having a more inclusive practice, but also how to be more effective with your clients. And I like to say that today, everything is right there in front of us. Everything is at our fingertips, and that means for not only for us when we think about fair housing, but also our clients. And we have to make sure that we can negotiate and ensure that we are not only protecting ourselves, but also our clients. So at Home with Diversity has been one of those courses that, again, transcends your professional into your personal. And so this is a course that you can take away from it so much more about yourself as well as about the clients that you work with. So it is a pleasure. I hope that you will have an opportunity to take the course because it will be very beneficial. And now it is my pleasure to turn over to Fanny Chu.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. As you know from Patrick's introduction of me, I was born in Hong Kong. So I came to the United States as a foreign student from the urban Hong Kong to St. Cloud, Minnesota, a college town. Yes, where everything is just one, one post office, one pizza parlor, and snow, snow, snow. So that I experienced, that's my first time I experienced a cultural diversity. And then I went from Minnesota to New Orleans. Now, you all know Minnesota and New Orleans in America is very diverse. And right, so since then I've been to New York and so on, and now it's landed in San Francisco. I'm not moving anywhere from now on. Okay, so, but that experience also gave me firsthand experience to know that America itself also has very diverse diversity, okay, in all the different area. And so now then that got me interested into CIPS, Certified International Property Specialist, because it's global. I can leverage my cultural background, my language, and so on. So I've been into CIPS for a very long time. And also with At Home with Diversity, but I taught CIPS more than At Home with Diversity, except now in the recent years. So that the global also, diversity is also a foundation in the global real estate. So now, also, then the other third aspect of it, like Margot, I'm a grandmother. So that means I am a first generation American, and my son and daughter is the second, and now I have grandchildren, they're the third. I don't know, you serve out there, you serve generational clients, right? And I'll tell you, even the diversity portion of it, the cultural perception and adherence to the different norms and custom and so on and so forth is different through the three generations. And I experienced that. So I think that for this particular course, At Home with Diversity, it's very, very important for us to dig deep into ourselves as an individual, what our feelings are, who we are, and then relate to what's outside with the current environment and with all your clients. So I don't want to talk too much because this is a very interesting, very important course that I think everyone should have. And every time when we talk about it, right, the panelists, that we also have eye-opener from the sharing with all the attendees. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Mark Kadabayashi, Managing Broker of Windermere Real Estate in Washington. Mark.
Thank you, Fanny, and thank you, everybody, for having the opportunity to do this. I mean, as far as experience is concerned, I'm I guess the youngest of all the panel members, just an experience-wise. But I've been in real estate for 20 years. Before that, I'm like Fanny, I'm a first-generation immigrant. My parents came to the United States in the Southern California area as a Protestant minister, as a missionary to Japanese-speaking congregations. So, and they went back after 3 years and they left me here. So I went to boarding school. I grew up in Southern California. I lived in New York. I lived in Japan and did a lot of import-export, a lot of international business before I end up in. I'll talk a lot about how my lifestyle is if you're able to take my home with the diversity class. But so, when you go looking at home with the diversity class, I'm the rookie here, like I said, and I've been teaching for about 10 years at home with the diversity class. In the beginning, let's say 10 years ago, no one really wanted to take this class. This was not the sexy class that everybody wanted to take. I'm just worried it's sexy. And we always talk about with the NAR's classes, how can we sell this class? At home, the diversity just does not sound sexy. But anyway, with that said, all suddenly, like starting like in 2020, like everybody wants to take at home with the diversity, and every association wants to offer it. I'm not being sarcastic about it, but what I'm saying is the sentiment of our country shifts. And it is a good opportunity for all of us. Now, to me, this probably is not the sexy, still not be the sexiest class, but definitely it's the most needed class right now. Why is it? We, especially as a realtor, we need to elevate ourselves. Our board of directors decided we added to code of ethics in the last board meeting. So we want to elevate ourselves. And this is a great opportunity for all of us to elevate ourselves. And to me is this, but don't look at it as this is a mandatory. We talk about fair housing, cultural diversity. We talk about different diversity. But remember, the diversity is not just about culture, right? I mean, sometimes we concentrate on culture, but actually, we talk about generation difference. We have handicap, different lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it is for us to be able to understand that this is a great class to take. And this year, our NAR's president, Charlie Oppler, actually challenged all the committee members and committee chairs to take this at home with a diversity class. So for us, it's the right timing to do it. And all of us, again, how we teach class evolves, how we learn from our student evolves as well. So I enjoy teaching this class, and hopefully you have a chance. All of us have a different strength and weaknesses. Maybe I do have weaknesses, but we all have a different perspective and life experience that we'll be able to share through our experience why the diversity is important. So I think it's a great class to take, and that's my background of it. So Patrick, I'm going to throw it back to you.
Thanks very much, Mark, and the rest of the panelists for sharing your brief introduction about yourself and why you think the certification is so important. I think it's a very maybe different time in our country where we've had time to sit back and think about what's important to us. Clearly, the George Floyd and other social unrest, the Black Lives Movement, these things have all shaped our interest, I think, as realtors in this program offering. And I'm glad it's the most popular NAR certification in 2020. I think that's amazing and says a lot. Genevieve, if you could drop our Eventbrite link into the chat so I can reference it. If not, I can grab it. So again, thank you, panelists, for sharing your stories and insights. We're going to invite our panelists back in a few minutes to dive into the content of the At Home with Diversity certification. But before we get to that, I wanted to share some exciting news on how our Realtor audience can sign up for the At Home with Diversity course taught by Michael Soon Lee and Fanny Chu at the end of March. We have some great incentives for agents to sign up today. The dates for the classes, and Jen will share the link here in just a moment. To get your calendars out, if you could, the dates for the classes that will be held via Zoom are March 29th and March 30th from 9 a.m. to noon. Again, March 29th, it's a Monday. March 30th is a Tuesday, and they will be held from 9 to noon. Michael and Fanny have been so gracious to team up to teach this class together so you can have a diversity of voices talking to you. The course offering will be $75 after this weekend, or sorry, after today. If you sign up today, it will be $65. And also, as a special offer, if you are one of the first 10 agents to sign up, SFAR will mail you a copy of The Color of Law, which is Richard Rothstein's book on the historical legacy of federal, state, and local governments' promotion of segregation, redlining, and housing discrimination. The pages of the book are eye-opening and talk about national, California, and Bay Area housing issues that still linger to this day. So if you've not picked up this book before, it's a must read. And if you have a copy already and you sign up, hey, give it to a colleague, a high school, or a library. For signing up for today, you can go to the Eventbrite link that is now listed. The Color of Law is an awesome book. Yes, thank you, Dawn. So it's listed in the chat now. So attendees, if you could open that up, that's also going to help you follow along with the next portion of our panelists' presentation. They're going to go one by one and talk about different subject matters in the certification. I'm going to scroll down here just a second. We are super excited to be sharing this course with any realtors on the call today. So not only the San Francisco Association of Realtors, but any in Contra Costa, Mar, or Bridge, you guys are welcome to sign up for this and get the certification. Thanks for being here with me right now. And I'm going to turn it over back to Michael, and he is going to talk a little bit about the foundation of better business and embracing diversity. Michael?
Thank you, Patrick. Well, At Home with Diversity teaches you how to get past differences that you might see on the outside to see how similar we all are on the inside. And if you embrace diversity, you open your business up to the fastest growing real estate market in America. Minorities are already 1/3 of the American population, and by the year 2045, minorities will be the majority in this country. So you can see how essential this class is and why there's so much interest in it. So if you want to survive and thrive in the real estate profession in the future, you've got to learn how to embrace diversity. For example, the majority of first-time homebuyers today are Hispanic. So if these are your clients, you might want to learn a bit about their culture, traditions, and holidays. If you've got other groups that you serve, again, learn about their traditions, learn about their holidays, learn a bit about their culture, and of course, enjoy their food as well. You'll also learn how to be more inclusive with your marketing and how to use the At Home with Diversity certification to your advantage. One of the most important concepts you will learn is that people from diverse cultures don't necessarily want to work with someone from their own culture. As long as you are sensitive to their culture, they will work with you. And again, this is going to open up a whole new world of clients for you. And they're really good about making referrals to their friends and family. But embracing diversity doesn't mean changing the whole way you do business, but it does mean changing some little things that mean a lot to be more inclusive. That's what At Home with Diversity is all about. In other words, If you can appeal to more people, you will grow your business. We'll show you how to develop a more inclusive business plan so you can do even better in a post-pandemic world. To do so, you need to learn to build rapport with people whose culture may be just a little bit different from your own, and how to develop trusting relationships with them. One thing we won't do in the program is stereotype, which is assuming that everyone from a particular culture is the same. For example, you're probably looking at me and you're thinking, he's obviously Asian, he must speak Chinese. Well, unlike Fanny, you would be wrong about me because I'm a 5th generation Chinese American. My great-great-grandfather came to the United States in 1855. So thanks to the California public school system, Fanny, I speak Spanish. If I spoke Chinese, I'd probably be retired by now. So we aren't going to stereotype, but we can use cultural tendencies to give us a clue about how people might think and behave. These tendencies are a people to behave similarly because they come from the same culture. For example, most Americans don't like to haggle. So the only items we regularly negotiate are cars and houses. And as a result, we're not very good at haggling or bargaining. On the other hand, many other countries around the world, they bargain over everything all day long. So they're really good at it. So we're going to give you resources for becoming a world-class negotiator when working with your multicultural clients and everybody else as well. These are just a few of the ways that At Home with Diversity can help you grow your business. To give us a little more insights into the rest of the program, here's Margot.
Thank you so much. I certainly appreciate that. You know, when you think about At Home with Diversity, there are so many aspects of it that are important to us as practitioners. When and Michael just certainly talked about certainly working with multicultural clients and some of the nuances that are so important so that you can ensure that you are sensitive to them, and more importantly, build a relationship with them, which is of the utmost importance. Along with that, when you're dealing with clients, whether they are multicultural or your clients that you've had that are coming back to you that are past clients, it is so important, as Patrick has mentioned, with the things that are happening and occurring in society today, with everyone being able to go right to the internet or just open up their phones and see what's going on as far as news, it's more important than ever, as Mark mentioned, for us to raise the bar, for us to know what are the requirements for fair housing. You know, in 2018, we at the National Association of Realtors commemorated the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act. Elizabeth Mendenhall was the president that year. And so we went all out the whole year to discuss the impact of fair housing. But along with that, what she did that had not been done previously, and which subsequently has been done, is to apologize for the history of fair housing and the way that the realtors initially were against integration. And so she talked about that, and she was very honest about that. And of course, full circle today, we are some of the strongest advocates for fair housing. So when you look at 2018, the commemoration of the Fair Housing Act, you also have to think in 2019 is when there was the 3-year expose investigation article that came out from Newsday about the New York realtors and real estate offices and the discrimination that was identified in that 3-year period. And so we don't want to fool ourselves to think it's only in New York That's why it's so important for us to understand the importance of fair housing and also exactly what it entails. Now, I have to say, this is one of the modules that we talk about in the At Home with Diversity course. And it goes into everything from the how do you identify if you're being discriminated against, or what to do if you identify at one of your clients or maybe another realtor, another licensee demonstrate discriminating against someone. How do you address that? So all of that is covered in the course. And you know, for me, it is personal. And I usually share when I'm teaching the course that when I first moved to Washington State in 1990, we went to buy a house. Me and my husband at that time, and we were both in the military. We were both in uniform. Of course, we went to a new home development, and we went into the development, and there were two agents who were there, and they greeted us and let us come in and walk through the model home. And that was it. I mean, pretty much we walked in and we walked out. We did not get any additional information. I went to another development with my husband, and we looked around, and again, the individuals at the door, they greeted us. However, when we left, they just let us leave. You know, they thanked us for coming. The third one I went to with my husband, it just so happened that at that one, there were several couples that were coming through. We were the only ones that were African American. We were the only ones that were Black. And we all walked in. There was another couple right with us, and they were white. And they came down, we went through two model homes, and then we came back out. And when we got ready to leave, we noticed that the other couple was given a packet of information about the development and information on how to contact them. We weren't given that. So for me, after that, we went to another community, and luckily found someone who was phenomenal, who's still in the business today, and who made me feel like I want to be like that person. And he wasn't Black, he wasn't African American, he was a professional, and he treated everyone with respect and treated you as if you were valued. And we ended up buying from him. So, you know, for me, when you think about clients who come to you and they have felt like they have been treated unfairly or not sure how you're going to treat them, when you have gone through this course, you can create that comfort for those individuals. You can be more sensitive to them and understand that that is what we should be doing anyway. And you also are not looking at just a transaction. You're looking at building a relationship that will last over time. And I will share with you, my clients that I have treated in that way are the best raving fans out there. Certainly they will be referring to you and bringing their friends and family to you. So we'll talk in depth about the fair housing. We'll also talk about a little bit, touch on the color of law, because that is so important for us to understand as professionals how we actually did get to the point where we are identifying certain areas as ghettos or slums and redlining, and how complicit the government was with that when it first was identified, how banks did not lend to individuals that were like me. And we all know that generational wealth is built typically from real estate. And for tens of millions of African Americans, Black people, they were unable to purchase homes because of the laws. So we'll talk about that also. And we'll talk about how to protect people today and what to do in case you have someone like me. I had a realtor who referred clients to me. They were in Utah, I'm in Washington. They had clients that they referred to me because they had started working with another agent and didn't feel as though they were treated the way that they expected to be treated. And they were a same-sex couple. And so they did not feel as though they were respected, or that the pronouns that they believed they should be used for them, that they preferred, that individual would not use them. So we'll talk about that also in At Home with Diversity. So quite a bit, you will be much more knowledgeable about fair housing. And I also have to say that I definitely promote the Fair Haven simulation that NAR has for fair housing. It is phenomenal. We'll also talk about how to set up systems so that you can ensure that you won't find yourself in a position where someone is placing a complaint against you for what they might perceive as discrimination. So we'll talk about how you can have systems in place that you can utilize for every situation, whether it is working with buyers or working with sellers, when you do open houses and everything else. And we'll also talk about 4 of the areas that are those that are most likely to get us in trouble when we're thinking about fair housing. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a snapshot of what we will cover, but I will share with you that this is a course that, again, I always say it's not just about the business, it's about life. We talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this course right here helps you to really get some context for that when you think about DEI and how we can work with clients, whether they are first generation or whether they are here and have been here for many years, but have not felt as though they could be served or getting the respect and being valued the way they should be. So again, this is one of those courses I think you will enjoy tremendously. And it is my pleasure to turn it over to Fanny Chu, who, as Patrick said, your very own, to share a little more perspective.
Thank you, Marco. Thanks, everyone. As Marco say, that we not only at this course will know the history of and a lot of the academics about fair housing. You know, in these few years, especially these 2 years, things have changed tremendously. We almost are, every one of us are living history, right? Today we are learning something, and tomorrow what we learned today became history. It was yesterday. So I just want to call your attention that you probably have a lot of news coming at you of all the things that is happening, that is still happening in spite of our efforts in the past year and in the last 2 years. The House, let me say, the House yesterday had passed the Equality Act, a landmark LGBTQ rights bill that prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in numerous areas, including employment and housing, education, public accommodation, credit, and jury service, and so on and so forth. So we are learning that every day there is something new. And I'm so proud our real estate industry have stepped up to meet the climate of today. And so we're not saying that we're doing the best way we can, but we are trying our best way. And then the at-home diversity course is one of the things that Michael mentioned, the word resources. And I think that when I teach, I always ask people to make a toolkit that will become your own as we go along, you know, moving things from one item to another. You as an attendee will make up your own, start building your own digital library with all the information and resources on hand, so that it not only will become a 1 hour, 2 hour, 6 hours thing, it become your lifelong way, professional way of going back to those resources, building and refining and retuning it, and most importantly is applying it to your business. That is the key. Marco also mentioned the word professional. That is such an important way that each one of us, and I think that all of us who took the At Home with Diversity will become an ambassador of doing the right thing, being the right kind of agent, being professional, treating everyone equally. So, right, a lot of those keywords, key concepts, attitude, behavior are what we wanted to convey, so that we all learn through this process of this particular class to become the right kind of agent, to be the right professional. And then also, I'm supposed to talk about the area of, I think I sidetracked, of inclusive, multicultural marketing. So inclusive is the word, treating everyone with respect, and equally is the word. And we will be touching also on networking out there in the community. And not only that, very important and very, very practical, is touching on advertising and marketing in the different medium, how to do it the right way. Okay, so I mean, we have so many new regulations coming up. I really don't know how to be a practitioner anymore. I feel like that every time I open my mouth, I am saying, oh, did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? And all of you know that, how we market, even with picture, or how we make offer with a client's picture there, we may be not doing the right thing. Okay, so, and then I really look forward to every single time we have the class, we have brainstorming on this, and we have different ideas coming up, and I learn every single time too. So I just can't say enough about this course, but it is very serious, but it can also be very fun. And I hope it will be a lifetime changer for all of us to make us better practitioners. So with that, I'd like to bring on Mark back again. Mark?
Thank you very much. And our three products cover almost everything that I wanted to cover a little bit. So there's not much to do, which is okay. That's why I like going last. So I'll fill in the blanks a little bit. One thing is a part of it, I know a lot of our fellow instructor here touched on, is one of the section I want to introduce to you is the section talking about biases. Talking about cultural biases and personal biases. And hard message is each one of us has a bias, whether it's a good bias or bad bias or not, each one of us has the biases. And a lot of them is implicit biases that could become explicit biases. Implicit bias is one of those things that you might not know you even have it. And some of you mentioned as well, the NAR has a right now implicit bias in fair housing training. There's a video, and also there's a little questionnaires that you could take that kind of helps you where your biases are. So just for learning experiences. So to me is at home, and also in this area that I'm covering right now for just briefly is we talk about cultural biases. We talk about high context and low context culture. And yes, it is hard. We talk about stereotyping, right? It's not a good thing to do, but there are certain traits that depends on what your cultural background has, that, like Michael mentioned as well. And it's good to understand those. Just knowing those, to me, has always been the highlight of this, is if you want to take anything positive, understanding the high and low context culture is going to help your business quite a lot, how you're going to approach people and your potential client as well. And this part is a lot of time it's fun because we share a lot of our cultural trait with whoever the participants and the students are. And I always enjoy it. I always share my experience as a so-called Japanese businessman. I worked in a Japanese business world before I became a realtor. And one of the things that we had in our culture back in the days was our company culture says, you should never be home twice a day. That was our company culture. So what does that mean? It's hard for Americans to understand that, but some Japanese people or Asian might understand. In other words, you should be entertaining your clients, going drinking and go basically with your colleagues. So you should not be home before midnight. And I did that in 9 years that I lived in New York. So I think I was drunk entire 9 years that I was in New York. I don't think I was ever sober, but I'll share those kind of things that might be interesting. And you can always share your story from your cultural background. We'll talk about a little bit about, business card. How do we handle business card in different culture, and so forth. And things like that could be very practical information to you. But I think also in entire overall and at home with the diversity class, what we're trying to help you is this is not the class that you're going to finish and say, oh, that was a great class. No, this is where it starts. And we're going to try to help you to, help you establish some type of a criteria, so even items within your business plan, or how to involve these diversity items in it. And how we talk about diversity has changed, in the last few years. It's continued to evolve. Like Fanny mentions about the fair housing, not fair housing, also equality for gender identity and sexual orientation that's going through the Congress right now. And I know there's a little bit of a hiccup might happen in the Senate, I'm hearing, but remember, our code of ethics as a realtor includes that already. We were forefront before that, and we've been proponent trying to include that. And finally, it looks like it's going to go, because we've been trying that for almost 2.5 years. But like anything else, everything else was stuck in the Congress for many different reasons. But anyway, so we'll talk about a lot of things, but hopefully this class will give you a little bit of a tip. And remember, Michael talked about, if you even look like the cultural or color differences, if the minority is going to be a half of the population of the United States, simple question is, are you willing to let go of about 50% potential of your clientele? Are you willing to do that or not? Is that a good business practice? So hopefully we give you a positive things. And also a little bit, if Patrick, somebody's going to call my story about it. This is an NAR certification class. What does that mean? Is that you pay one-time certification fee and you'll have the alphabet soup for the rest of your realtor career. It's not like some of the designation, they keep milking you every year. That probably, Don's on the phone, NAR's our professional development person's there, so she probably will scold me later, but this is one of those things, you get your alphabet for one-time fee, but you're going to continue to learn. And I encourage you to take this class like every 3-4 years, because that's where we update our classes and we learn, because our situation is shifting every day. So hopefully, you have chance to take our home with a diverse class, whether with Fanny and Michael, with Margot, myself, or whoever that's teaching out there. Each one of us have a different way of bringing class, and it's a very interesting class. And actually, the participants be able to share their culture background to their experiences is going to make us, all of us, make a better realtor. So hopefully that's going to help you as well. So I'll wrap it up there, and I'll back to Patrick.
Great job, presenters. Thank you guys very much for sharing those insights and understanding of what the certification is all about. I think it's been very eye-opening. I do want to shift our attention now to a question and answer period. I've got a couple questions, and I know some of our audience members have chimed in with a couple of questions. So if all the presenters can take themselves off mute, and we can work through answering the questions as a panel. I'll try to mute myself after asking each question. The first question comes from a gentleman who I have a lot of respect for and who is a pioneer in this work, Alan Ekamoto. He wants to know how the curriculum has changed in light of current social unrest in this country. Is this course only about diversity, or does it touch on fair housing? I know some of those have been answered already. Alan goes further to say, I was on the NAR task force that developed the at-home with designation or certification back in the 1980s, and the term diversity and fair housing were not really on the lips of real estate associations quite yet. So Alan would like to know how things have been updated and what sort of information one can expect in light of current, and past social injustices.
Well, Patrick, I want to assure Alan, who I've known very well and for a long time, that At Home with Diversity is constantly updated and each presenter brings their own perspective to it as well. And Fanny and I are going to talk about things like Black Lives Matter, social justice, and how fair housing and the lack of it has led to, as Margot mentioned, slums and ghettos today as we look around, and how it's led to the fact that whites have 10 times the wealth of African Americans, 8.5 times the wealth of Hispanics in America. How did that all come about? And we also want to delve back into some of the history of our association. No one's mentioned this, but prior to 1950, the NAR Code of Ethics actively encouraged realtors to discriminate against minorities. And we'll explain why that is, how it changed, and why it's so important that we as realtors take the forefront in the fight for fair housing, because we are the gatekeepers to real estate and we can help change some of these inequities. And so that's why I think it's important. And I think the reason the class is so important and so popular right now is because everybody, including realtors, want to know what's all the hubbub about social justice these days. And we can address that through At Home with Diversity.
I agree with everything that Michael just said. And I also, know that every place you look, and certainly first of all, let me concur with what you said, Patrick, about Alan. Certainly, definitely a trailblazer. But I would say that every place you look, there is a conversation about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, social justice, as Michael just mentioned. And so all of those areas are covered and covered extensively in the new At Home with Diversity course. And that's why I enjoy teaching it so much, because it has continued to evolve with the times. So yes, definitely it's addressed.
Yeah, just to be technically, we got a major revamp in late 2018. So 2019 was a new, just for technicality wise. And I think the class continues to evolve on the participant as well. Because one of the things that who is thinking about participating is to understand is, remember, this is the educational learning opportunities that we have. It's not about making a political statement that you personally might have on certain times. And definitely we have a very lively class in last year compared to other years. But thing is, this is what my grandma said, and I'm still having issue with this, is that my grandma said there's a reason why God gave you 2 years and 1 month. And I still have an issue with that. And a lot of us on the screen, that's why we like to teach and we like to talk. But that's what my grandma told me. But that's what the attitude that we should have when we take this class. Because I have some participants say, you know what, including even talking about gender differences or cultural differences or looking at the US Census data is discriminating. So, we have that extreme as well. But for me is, like Margot, Michael, and Fanny says, it's always important to gotta start somewhere. Unless we had a data, we don't even know that there's a, statistically, there's a difference on a wealth gap or anything like that. So it is, statistics is important. It's a starting point where we have to start somewhere to start comparing so that we can make it better. So just have an open mind when you take the class. Let's have a positive attitude towards it rather than negative attitude in the realtor's not doing enough or whatever it might be. We'll take it. We'll take it on, all the comments and everything else, but because it's a learning. But just let's have a positive attitude towards why we should take the At Home with a Diversity class.
Yes.
And I just wanted to mention that Don Hedke made a note that actually At Home with Diversity was last updated in May of 2020. So it does indeed reflect everything that's going on in the world today.
Yes, and Alan, you know how I feel about you. You always inspire me, and yes, and and mentor us, and mentor me. So I can't say enough about you, Alan. But to answer your question, I think like all me especially as long as I have been an instructor, I have make a habit of updating whatever material there is even up to the night before. Okay, because as we know, things that are written already become outdated before the print goes out, so so that's given the fact that it is very important for us to the home diversity class as it stands, whatever material it is, it's a starting point, like everyone have said. But it's important for us to give the tools, the way, for the attendees to update those information themselves later on, every single day for the rest of their career life. And that is updating the resources, the links, the updating the information, and so on and so updating the legislations, and so on and so forth at their own digital library. So that way it will always be fresh. And then I always say that we have to do spring cleaning, in our digital library also all the time, and then for this particular subject, fair housing, I think we will have new things happening to us every month, thrown in at us, even government regulations and so on. So that is the important thing, is to teach people how to update their own information all the time to keep it fresh.
Thank you, guys. We have a couple more questions. I'm going to read two of them, and then I'll get to the last two. So Charmaine asks, will covenants be covered? And I think covenants in homeowners associations and things that are either class or racist, and then covenants off of titles. Those that would need to be addressed historically.
So the answer is, Patrick, yes. Restrictive covenants in particular are covered. My parents were forbidden from buying a home in Oakland, California, above MacArthur Boulevard because of a restrictive covenant that was already expired and outdated and illegal, and yet some realtors were still enforcing it. So we're definitely going to talk about restrictive covenants.
Excellent.
I think on the restrict covenants, I think a lot of the local or state associations working on it, because the covenants rule and how it could be changed different in each state. And I can't talk about California because I'm not familiar. But Washington State, even though it's illegal, we have a legislation going through right now as we speak that will basically not remove, it's be making a process a lot easier to remove it. Currently, we have to go through a title, everything to be able to remove it, but now it's going to be making a whole lot difference. So basically somebody we're assigning an entity in Washington to look at it. If they see it, they can remove it right away, kind of thing. So it is definitely Realtors Association as an association working hard with the local, to state legislature to make sure that that happens as well. And then of course, something like Michael said, we'll cover those things of what's happening as well.
Excellent. We have another question from Dina. We here in San Francisco feel as though we are on the forefront of diversity and diversity issues, particularly around culture. Do you touch upon transgender rights?
We do. It's just, we have to stay on top of it because transgender rights are changing even as we speak, as Margot mentioned. Margot, you want to pick up on that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. And I think that, when you look at transgender rights, or, you look at any of the gender or orientation, sexual orientation, social groups or ethnicities, we cover all of it. And specifically, when we are dealing in each, whichever location that we are teaching the course in, some are going to have more questions about certain topics and certain areas and certain social groups, and we delve into that even more. But yes, we definitely will touch on it for each area. So yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Kenny Gong, our diversity chair, has a couple questions. He says, what an awesome panel. Thank you all. 2 quick questions. Those new course changes, what are some specific topics you are all most excited to teach, presumably because you can talk about things that were maybe once off the table or taboo. So that's the first part. And second part is maybe a little separate from At Home with Diversity content directly. I'm curious how you all think we can encourage and cultivate diversity, equity, and inclusion in our realtor community, knowing that our profession only reflects about 15% BIPOC.
Mhm.
So I'll go ahead and let you guys jump into that.
Patrick, what was that first part of the question? What was the first question? I heard the second one and I'll speak to it, but what was the first question?
Sure. The first question is what new content is in the classes that you guys are excited about teaching, that's inspiring, it's something that's passionate for you?
Okay. All right. Great question. In fact, all the questions have been great questions. But I will tell you, right from the first module, the first introduction to the end of the course, I am excited about all of it. Let me just say, when we did that revision, it covers so much information and it is so relevant right now that I am just truly excited. And I think that any of us here on this panel would have been able to speak about any section of it, any of the modules, and it is 6 modules that are really covered in the course. But I think we all could have spoke just as passionately about each one of the modules. So rather, I'm talking about working with clients from different generations, different ethnicities, or rather I'm talking high or low context, or rather I'm starting off with talking about building a foundation of inclusive practices, going all the way. And we didn't even mention that you'll be doing, as Mark has mentioned, an assessment of yourself and the SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats, as well as coming out of it with at least the start of an inclusive business plan. I'm excited about all of it. So there you go with my 2 cents.
And I would say that one of the newest things that we cover, I mentioned the fact that realtors were encouraged to basically discriminate against minorities because it was believed that minorities would lower the value of real estate. But now in the new program, we cover the new section 10.5 of the Code of Ethics, which encourages diversity, equity, and inclusion from all realtors. I mean, it is now in writing, which I think is a big step forward. And that's just one of the things that has been changed.
Yeah. So the way I'm answering right now will be, say, I was kind of reading the question, says, what were some of the off topic that we were able to speak now? At least for my class in At Home with the Diversity, I always give a caveat from the beginning. So there's nothing that's off topic, because unless we're able to talk about it, it's not going to go anywhere. Basically that, especially maybe in 2020, it allowed many of us to talk about it now openly without feeling like we're offending somebody. But that's like I said, but to me, there's no off topic that we talk about. Of course, we have to, when we're teaching the class, we kind of have to run through the syllabus that we have, but we're certainly more than open to any discussion on whether it's relating to housing. But one thing that I always like to concentrate on is, this is a realtor class. So I would like to concentrate on what can we do as a realtor professional to become a better and to elevate ourselves, and not get into the personal attacks to each other about how they feel and so forth. But there's no off topic. And yeah, I think that should be good enough for me from now.
I want to piggyback on that, Mark. I tell everybody at the beginning that treat this as Las Vegas. We're all in Vegas, even though we're online. And what is said online in our At Home with Diversity stays within the group. So nothing is off topic or anything we should be afraid to talk about, because once we can get it out there, we can get those questions answered that have been driving us crazy for years. It's going to help our businesses, and it's going to help our relationships with all of our clients. So I think that's a great thing.
And I-
Somebody asked, Patrick, can administration folks in our office sign up as well, or do we have to have a real estate license? I think Dawn could probably chime in on that. I think they can take the class. I don't know if they can get a certification.
Yeah, I think it's taking the class. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
And I think, I think second question about association within our realtor community and so forth. And, you know, I think each local, state, and national association working very hard and to improve and at least get the information. So that's why we have a lot of the ACT is one of those things. ACT is a program that NAR has, basically say we have to be more DEI understanding and so forth. And, you know, I'll give you a good example. Even Margot and I come from the same state, and Margot was a past state president. I was a past state president. Even within ourselves, there are things that we agree to disagree. And I'm just not saying a bad way, but you know, I have a respect towards Margot. And to give you a good example, Washington State, minority population in Washington State is less than 20%. That's including all the minorities. But in our state association, I'm happy to say we had 3 minority, I'm just going to use a minority in general terms. Okay, minority state president within the 10 years. That's including myself, Margot, and Jerry Martin. And we were the only state associations that I know of had a back-to-back African-American president as a state president in the entire country in the last 100 years of history. And number of the African-American board members that we have in the state association, I think last time I counted is like 6, you know, total. So that's a pretty good odds for becoming a president if you're African-American in Washington State. So just think about that as well. Move to Washington and come join us.
Believe me, you got to do a lot of work to get there, though. It's not just being there and showing up. That's not enough. But I will say that, as Mark has just mentioned, certainly at every level, that question was really apropos, because at every level, you can see our association working towards inclusivity, also addressing DEI, certainly the ACT, accountability, certainly culture change, as well as training for NAR, and at each state association and local association. And right here with yours and having a diversity committee, I think that's one of the steps. And then personally, as an individual realtor, I am just so encouraged by so many of the conversations that are on Facebook, also now in Clubhouse and every place else, but that are having conversations about how to actually affect change, social justice, as well as housing and everything else. And certainly there are many groups that have book groups that have been formed around the color of law. So I think as well as companies, because I know my company, I'm in John L. Scott in Washington, and our CEO has offered the At Home with Diversity course multiple times free to our brokers, because he feels as though it's so important for all of us to get this information. So I think at every level, individually as well as company-wide, association-wide, it is moving forward, and we have to just keep that going.
Yeah, I want to mention that Dawn Hidke chimed in on chat, and she says staff can also get their certification as long as they have an NRDS number. So keep that in mind.
Yes. So to me, the At Home with Diversity course is like a piece of pie, your pizza. You know, the 6 module is the 6 pieces of it. To me, the most critical portion of it is how someone took all the information and put it to apply it in practical life. I think that is the key part. And what kind of cheese that you put on your pizza, you know, that is your own personality and your own business plan. You know, so I will invite you to our pizza party.
No pineapples, please.
Any other questions, Patrick?
Yeah, we have one last, or actually 2 last questions. It says the course, sorry, this is a question from Cecilia. Does the course include the new code of ethics? I think that's a yes or no question.
Yeah.
That'd be yes.
Yes, it does.
And then Kenny asks again, excited to learn from Dr. Michael Lee and Fanny next month. Will Margot and Mark be teaching a course soon?
We will be teaching out of state. Well, at least I will, and I know Mark and I do some team teaching actually, the same way Michael and Fanny are doing. But I'll be teaching in March. I'll be teaching, and right around the same time, I think I'll be teaching for the greater Virginia, DC area, and also for Oregon Association, and have a number of other opportunities in the future. Actually, in California, they're trying to schedule one in September. I think it's Orange County or someone else. So there you go. Thank you for asking.
And I think all the at home with a diversity class, if you go to the ner.realtor and go there, and there is a schedule that's there, that who's teaching, where it's teaching. And I know Margaret and I are teaching in April for Washington Realtors, and I'm teaching right now. A couple of them are on schedule for a lot of the local association Washington as well. And if you like to, have, you could always join. Now you might not, you might have to work out a little bit to get your CE credit, continuing education credit, but at home with the diversity class, you could take it anywhere in the world or anywhere in the country, and you'll be able to get a certification. So
we want you guys to start in San Francisco first, but if you can't make that course, then yes, grab these other opportunities and make sure to get the designation. I had the pleasure and privilege of interviewing Richard Rothstein when he was with us talking about the color of law. And I kind of want to, if we can, end the question and answers here. Selfishly, I want my answer. What do you think we can do as realtors, lenders, real estate professionals to really open up not only the industry, but real estate to all lives? I mean, clearly getting this designation and learning are critical to that. I asked Richard that question and he was basically like, you tell me. So I'm still looking for the answer.
So I think what we need to do, Patrick, is just become more aware. One of the things that we discovered while doing At Home with Diversity is a lot of the photos that are in the program are all of younger people and not necessarily older folks. So even at NAR, we kind of missed the boat in regards to that. But as we take At Home with Diversity and as we become more aware of our own implicit biases and other people's biases as well, we need to be looking out there and making sure that our offices are diverse, that our board of realtors are diverse, and do what we can to encourage people of different ethnicities, of physical abilities, sexual orientations are part of our community, because once we're all in this together, then no one's going to be left out. We're all going to be sensitive to each other. We'll all be reminding each other that, we need to be more inclusive. But until that happens, we just have to be aware and keep reminding each other that we got to be inclusive. Don't leave anybody out, including our clients as well.
Sure. I'll go next and we'll make sure all of us have time. So my thought on Richard Rothstein, I do not agree 100% on what he feels as a solution that he mentions in the book, but that's just my comment. But one thing that I know is it's a one realtor at a time. Truly, it's one realtor at a time. And think about it. And this statistic I was used to be able to use beginning of last year because, hey, there's more realtor members in the United States than people who had COVID. I was able to use that, but I can't use that anymore. So, but we still have a 1.4 million members. That means 1 out of 235 people in this country is a realtor. Not real estate practitioner, I'm talking realtors, which is about 70% of the licensing in the country. So to me, if all of us have awareness and work towards it like a common goal as a group, definitely we're going to be able to achieve it a lot quicker. So that's my last sense and comments on that for you, Patrick. Sorry, I didn't directly answer the question, but that's my thought.
And I'm right along with Mark and Michael, and I have to say that I think doing what you're doing here, promoting the information and the curiosity about the program and the certification is a great step. I think having diversity committees is a great step. I think that NAR, what they're doing with ACT and the fair housing simulation that they have, Fairhaven, is a great step. And I especially think that when you think about the fact that having the course is a course standard now for associations and reaching out. You see the NAR president, as someone has mentioned, I think it was Charlie Oppler, challenging all of the committee members, and we have thousands of committee members to take the At Home with Diversity course. And Dawn is on here, and I know they have at least 1,000 people already for a course that she's promoting in the future. But I think all of us, and this is just a first step. This is just enough to get us, get our appetites wet so that we can move, as Fanny keeps saying, to have a digital resource and library so we can go back. I always look at Kiss, Bow, and Shake Hands as well as Michael's books to have in my toolkit so that I know when I'm dealing with individuals from different cultures, some of the things that I need to be aware of. So I think all of these are first steps, but I think that all of us together, individuals can make a difference, and all of us together can make a huge change.
Yes, I agree that we are one realtor at a time, and let's just take on the responsibility, accountability on ourselves. Each one of the attendees that out there we've taken it, know that we can be an ambassador of fair housing. And then, well, my motto being Lions Club district governor this year was be seen, be heard, be known. And that is that runs through the same thing. We need to be seen, be heard, and be known doing the right thing. And I'm asking, those of us who are brokers, does your office post a big, huge fair housing poster in your office? A broker will be impacting more than one realtor. It will be multiple realtor. So depending on the role you are, we an instructor are trying to make impact. The little drop of water is going to splash out and make ripples. So I think, but if we each take on, don't point our finger to other people, you do it. And, we take it upon ourselves, each one of us, to do it. Then it will be done. I have faith in that.
Well, I have faith in all you guys and your instructor abilities and your passion for this work. It's been amazing having you guys on. I can't wait to hear feedback from the At Home with Diversity certification that'll be coming up on March 29th and 30th, held by Dr. Lee and Fanny Chu, our very own. And again, thank you guys for being on today, and we really appreciate you. Genevieve, if you could post one time again, contact information and names for all of our presenters, so anyone who's on has further follow-up questions can get them asked.
Great job, Patrick. Thank you so much. And thanks, Genevieve, too.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to
yeah,
join our realtor family here.
Genevieve, please invite us to teach ISFAR or in the Bay Area.
And we look forward to seeing everybody at Home with Diversity on the 29th and 30th.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye.